So we have another very important project in the third call for proposal, which is the Eupati project, which again demonstrate that both patients and I would not use the word education because I don't like to talk about educating patients. I think that we have to inform patients. That's what we have to do in the best way possible. And to introduce you to this Eupati project, I have the pleasure to introduce Nicola Bedlington from the European Patients Forum, and Nicola is closely associated with IMI and our activities for several years now. So Nicola, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the European Patients Forum to talk to you about Eupati, the European Patients Academy on Therapeutic Innovation. The basic premise of Eupati is that patients across the European Union want and need more information on therapeutic innovation, but are largely unaware of the complexities of research in that area and their potential role. And patients advocates, as we learned earlier, can of course play a key role, but may lack the education, I'm afraid it is education, and training to participate in research and drug development processes. So that really was our starting point. And out of that premise, Eupati was born. It comes from the third call, topic 9, and it was kicked off in February of this year, so it's really brand new. We're a consortium of 29 partners, led by the European Patients Forum. Crucially, patient organisations lead this project, and we're joined by 3 other major umbrella patient organisations in the areas of rare diseases, HIV, AIDS, and genetic disorders. We're also bringing together some of the real foremost thinkers in relation to patient engagement in terms of the academic partners that are involved in Eupati, and a whole range of industry partners with a very strong track record in relation to patient education on therapeutic innovation. So what the project will do in concrete terms will be to develop and disseminate accessible, well-structured and user-friendly information and resources on therapeutic innovation, build real competencies among well-informed patients and the public on pharmaceutical R&D, create the leading public library on patient information in 6 languages, and establish the infrastructure that will actually build on all of this. The main point, or one of the main points in relation to Eupati, is to really facilitate meaningful patient involvement in R&D so that patients can be part of a solution. They can support industry in their innovative work, academia in their innovative work, but regulatory authorities in terms of advice and know-how from patients themselves based on their unique experience and expertise, and also to play a role in HTA environments, in ethic committees, and so on and so forth. I think there's now an open door there, a recognition for patient involvement, but we need to come halfway and make sure that patients, leading patient experts, know the rules of the game and know how to actually convey their expertise and experience effectively. So the first part of the project is actually looking at that specific audience, the experts, the so-called patient experts, through a certificate training programme. So we'll have patient ambassadors. We'll also have patient journalists who are able to write eloquently about their experiences in relation to therapeutic innovation, and also patient trainers that can train their fellow patients in relation to therapeutic innovation. The second part of the project is really around a patient educational toolbox, and that will address 12,000 patient advocates, patient leaders who are actually at the heads of patient organisations throughout the European Union, working on pharmaceutical policy and health policy on an ongoing basis, and who need to know much more about the research process. And the third audience is basically the lay public, the lay patient, and we're hoping to address at least 100,000 individuals out there through this library. And typically a patient or a potential patient who wants to know a little bit more about what constitutes meaningful informed consent in relation to a clinical trial. What does HTA, health technology assessment actually mean in practice? And we're also going to ensure within that audience that we really reach out to patients with low literacy skills as well. In order to achieve maximum outreach, and this came up as a question earlier, we're going to actually draw on the 6 most frequently spoken languages across the European Union, including Russian, to try and ensure we can cover Central and Eastern Europe effectively. We will directly serve through that approach 11 European countries. But in honesty, we see that as a starting point, and our ambition during the lifetime of the project, which is 5 years, we hope very much will acquire the resources and the impetus to be able to translate into other languages as well. In terms of the specific topics that will be addressed by the Eupati project, we'll be looking at the medicines development process from research to approval, the whole area of personalised and predictive medicines, drug safety and risk-benefit assessment of medicines, the whole area of pharmacoeconomics and health technology assessment, an increasingly important arena where patient involvement is a prerequisite, the design and objectives of clinical trials and the importance of involving stakeholders meaningfully in all of this, and the patient's own roles and responsibilities in innovative medicines development. Now, clearly, a project like this, a public-private partnership involving the patient community, academia, and industry, focusing essentially on information to patients, requires the right sort of framework in terms of independence and transparency. Otherwise, I think we're opening ourselves up to a lot of unnecessary criticism, and we've tried to embed that within the project in very practical terms, in terms of the quality control mechanisms within the work package developing the content, quality assurance in terms of the implementation and the rollout of the products that we produce through Eupati, setting up a regulatory advisory panel involving the European Medicines Agency and 3 other regulatory authorities to advise us on the content using the quality criteria that have been actually agreed through the Pharmaceutical Forum, quality criteria on information to patients. A project advisory board involving some of the leading independent experts in this area, in many different areas, in fact, in relation to therapeutic innovation, including Cochrane. And within the project, we've also set up a very robust ethical framework and an ethics panel made up of some of the leading ethicists from across the European Union, and our own Eupati Code of Practice, which is how the different partners within the consortium, the broader network where we bring in other experts, actually commit to work with each other in a constructive and powerful way. And the basic message is assumed good intent and a big degree of trust and respect across the huge diversity of partners. As I mentioned at the beginning of our presentation, it's really at the starting point. The project started in February. We had our first consortium meeting in early March. We launched the project officially at the DIA meeting in Copenhagen, also in March, and that was a very successful event to which Michelle addressed the audience. So we're on our way, and it will be a very interesting journey, but it bodes very well. I think we've got some extremely committed partners. We're delighted with the commitment that's been shown by the IMI joint undertaking, and now it's time to deliver. If you'd like any more information, there's, I think, a brochure in your bag, and I'm very happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for this very clear and concise presentation. So we have time for comments or questions. Yes, please.
Walter Luijten, KU Leuven. I was a bit surprised at the inclusion of Russian, especially with an eye towards reaching Eastern European countries. My understanding is that the popularity of Russian in those countries has considerably declined after they became oriented more towards the West, and also that the necessity of studying Russian has greatly declined as a result of that. So is Russian really the way to Eastern European countries?
I have to confess this was our assumption in the first instance as well, and we really questioned. It was something that was put forward to us when we were building the project at the concept phase, and the idea of actually using Russian as a language was put forward. And we tested that. We tested that with the patient communities in the countries concerned as to whether this was viable and this was appropriate. And they came back and said, yes, this is the way forward in the first instance. But it's a very good question, I think, a good point.
Yeah, I think that